From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your morning update.
You want to go where to buy a new refrigerator? Steve's A to Z Appliance in Cottonwood? In Cottonwood? Just a 10-minute drive. And they'll save us money. New and used, honest, reliable, factory-trained repair service and parts, and they'll save us money. And dispose of this thing? We gotta make the short drive to Steve's A to Z. Thanks, hon.
Steve's A to Z Appliance, front and main streets in Cottonwood. Drive a little, save a lot.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Chief Meteorologist Mike Krueger. Thank you so much for joining me here for this Wednesday morning. Our headlines are showing that we've got more mountain showers and thunderstorms here through Saturday. So really, I was talking about how the overall chances in the mountains will start today, and then we'll continue those showers and thunderstorms off and on here going into the weekend. Now, the best chances in the valley will be Friday and in particular Saturday, but there could be a few stray showers here and there in some of those evening hours here as early as this evening and even tomorrow evening. A big drop in our temperatures here by the end of the week, but then once we get into, say, the beginning of next week, it's warming back up again, and not to mention drying out as well. We'll get into all of that in our deeper dive forecast, but first let's take a look at your Krueger's Quickcast for your Wednesday, April 23rd. Starting off once again with a frost advisory for Trinity County. Some of those low-lying areas, those mountain valleys sheltered by the winds, could see temperatures drop below freezing for a long period of time, which could create some damage to some of those sensitive vegetation. So just be aware of that as we go through these early morning hours. Out the door for this morning, we've been looking at some of that fog along the coast and maybe a few showers, especially in Modoc County continuing. But most of the showers that we did see last night were mainly north and east of the valley in eastern Siskiyou County, Modoc County early this morning as well. But again, you can still see at 8 o'clock maybe some of those showers around Modoc. But otherwise dry for everyone else and fairly mild. But heading out to any of the cool April nights events here for today, you should be looking at pretty good shape there. Not even all that windy, looking at plenty of sunshine. Now, the clouds may move in. We'll call it partly cloudy by the time we do go into the late afternoon and early evening. Off chance for a stray shower. And we'll talk about that in your deeper dive forecast in here a bit. But overall, I do expect some good conditions here for those show and shines here for today. This is the disturbance that moved through last night. You can see the cloud cover. That's the rain. That's the thunderstorm activity we did see to the south of Boerne. You may have heard some of those rumbles of thunder in northeastern Shasta County last night. That has pretty much moved on out of here, though. High pressure, that's been really the dominant feature over the last several days. That's beginning to show signs of breaking down, and that's going to allow more storm systems to move in and increase our chances for showers and thunderstorms. So 8 o'clock this morning, this is where most of the activity is. That is going to be kind of shifting to the north and east and then moving on out. Now, overall, what we're seeing here is still some fog along the coast. And by midday, we're starting to see more of those afternoon clouds begin to develop in the mountains. Then eventually, we see some thunderstorms popping up. We could see some lightning strikes in there, east of the valley, and even in western parts of, say, for example, Tehama County. Then we go into the late afternoon. You see a few pop-ups here in parts of eastern Trinity County, western Siskiyou County, and off to the east. You'll see we're not seeing a lot of activity, though. Really, overall, we're not seeing a lot of activity. But we are going to be looking at just these isolated showers and maybe a pop-up thunderstorm as well. The valley at this point still dry. Now, when we see these thunderstorms developing just to the west of Redding and north of Redding, some of those could spill into the north end of the valley around the city of Shasta Lake, around Redding. So if you see a stray shower by the late afternoon, early evening hours around Redding, don't be surprised, but it just depends on where those showers and thunderstorms develop. That's the bottom line there. And we still have some of that fog developing and staying in place here overnight tonight here for the coast. All right, let's take a look at your forecast for today. Plenty of sunshine as mentioned. We may see some of those afternoon clouds developing here for places like Redding and Cottonwood, but otherwise just some scattered showers, maybe an isolated thunderstorm for the higher elevations, and then temperatures in the upper 50s to around 60 for those of you along the coast. All right, so let's take a look at your 7-day forecast for the valley. Now, I got PM in there for Redding and also Red Bluff, and maybe even PM here for today in Redding as well. But most of the activity for the valley is going to be Friday and Saturday. And yes, I've included mainly cloudy skies on Saturday. Looks like a pretty decent chance for some measurable rainfall. And on top of that, much cooler. Temperatures in the low 60s. But then it warms back up and dries out as we go into the second half of the weekend and early next week. For the coast, mainly dry through Thursday. Showers Friday, Saturday, drying out Sunday. Could see a slight chance for a shower in Weaverville. Don't count on much. Better chances for some heavier rainfall, thunderstorms on Thursday. Off and on chances for showers, especially through Saturday. Then by Sunday, there's a slight chance for some of those mountain showers, but that's really when things are starting to wrap up. Off and on chances for pretty much everywhere to the north and east of the valley. Cooler as we go into the weekend, but warming back up for early next week. All right, that's a look at Krueger's Quickcast. Do want to remind you there's a free Weather NorCal app. Just go to your app store, search for Weather NorCal, and download the app for free for your hyper-local Weather NorCal app. All right, so here's what we got here. Again, we've got this ridge of high pressure. There's really not anything on this map or on this image that really stands out. Yeah, a couple of things. This is what we saw last night with this weak disturbance and some of the clouds associated with that flow coming in from the southwest. Meanwhile, we've got an area of low pressure here. Now, this low pressure itself is not going to be moving over us, but some energy is going to break off from that and move over us by the end of this week and into the weekend. Let's take a look at Futurecast in the next few days. There's some of that morning activity here. We're seeing the fog along the coast, by the way, but places like Crescent City, probably not as bad. There's the afternoon convection. We're seeing those clouds developing here. By 5 p.m., we're seeing the scattered showers and possible thunderstorms in the mountains. But again, it's going to be few and far between. Not everyone's going to see that activity here. It will be dry in the valley, but there are some of the clouds I was talking about by late this afternoon and early evening around Redding. And you see how we're seeing these showers and thunderstorms popping up. If this were to pop up just north of Redding, that could spill into places like Redding. So it's not out of the question for Redding to maybe see a stray shower should a shower or thunderstorm develop just north of Redding. Something worth watching, something to pay attention to if you're going to be out at one of those show and shines later this evening. But by tonight, that's all pretty much done with. We're still seeing that fog really just hugging and staying on the coast there. Pretty solid, actually. There could even be some morning fog here for places like Glenn and Butte counties here for tomorrow morning. So something to be on the lookout for, especially if you are going to be traveling southward. But now by noon on Thursday, we're beginning to see those showers and thunderstorms popping up. Now it looks like with the upper level flow coming in from the south, this is where I think we're going to see the most amount of instability is right here. So we're not going to see as much activity as we go through the day on Thursday off to the east. So you see how most of the activity is developing here west of the valley, but we are seeing some stray activity developing in eastern Siskiyou County and parts of Modoc County as well. But once again, you'll notice in the eastern mountains in general, we're just not seeing a lot of activity. In the meantime, still looking at those overcast skies, but still dry for the north coast. But some of that just may creep into places like Hoopa, Willow Creek, for example. And then by 6 p.m. Thursday, we're still seeing some of that activity here. Look at some of these showers that are getting awfully close to the valley. So Red Bluff, Redding for a late afternoon, early evening shower to come in from the south. It's not out of the question. But again, I think most of it will be confined in the mountains. Even as we go into Thursday night, we are seeing some thunderstorms developing to the north and west of Redding. So again, this is where we're seeing the most amount of instability through the day on Thursday, even into Thursday night. By Friday morning, we're kind of starting to see the activity begin to move out, but notice this is kind of moving in this direction right here. That's because we have an area of low pressure down to our south and west, and the flow around that low is what's going to help to generate those showers. So you can see again the flow around that area of low pressure right here. So what's going to happen is we're going to see that kind of shift down to the south here through the day on Saturday. So Saturday morning, you're seeing some showers around Redding and to the north here. And by the way, see all that snow? I think we can see snow levels down to about 5,000 feet. That's pretty low for this time of the year, and it's not out of the question for Alturas to maybe see some of that snow. But then it turns back over to rain as that warmer air begins to move in. But noon on Saturday looks like a Redding. You see how it starts to shift to the south through the afternoon. So through the day on Saturday, what it looks like, better chances for that rain moving in. This doesn't look to be terribly heavy, but it will be in the form of showers and brief periods of even maybe some moderate rainfall. But even Chico eventually seeing that here as we go into Saturday evening. Now, I don't want to give you any rainfall estimate totals with numbers because that's very deceptive. The problem is when you start looking at rainfall totals and rainfall estimates, it depends on where the stronger showers and thunderstorms develop. And really, there is no forecast model that can really pinpoint that, especially 2, 3, 4 days out, exactly where the strongest cell is going to develop. What the forecast models can do is say, hey, listen, the conditions are ripe for showers and thunderstorms, but exactly where those develop, you can't really do that. So to give you numbers is just a disservice, because it can really just kind of give you a false sense of hope or a false sense of something if you don't need the rainfall, right? But the main thing I want to point out here is this. You see the blues here? This is what I was talking about. Remember I was saying that the heaviest amount of instability is going to be in this area right here. And that's why you can clearly see where the heaviest rainfall will be. Not as much for the valley here, but there could be some more of that instability kind of wrapping around that area of low pressure coming into places like Modoc County. But as I mentioned, remember we weren't seeing as much rain through the day tomorrow for parts of the eastern mountains, hence probably seeing less rainfall as a result. And I don't expect to see as much rainfall for the coast either. So that's kind of a general idea of what we're looking at with that rainfall. But Saturday, you see here's the area of low pressure. We've got the flow around that low still generating some of those showers. But on Sunday, this model has really been fairly consistent with keeping us dry on Sunday. However, the European forecast model has been consistent with still a slight chance for a stray shower in some of the mountains here. So I'm going to keep that slight chance on Sunday, but should be dry for the valley. High pressure is what's going to be really settling in here as we go into Monday, Tuesday of next week. But there could be some weak disturbances kind of pushing through that ridge. So by the middle of next week, maybe a chance for some more of those mountain showers entering the picture here. So let's take a look at the temperature roller coaster ride that we're looking at here. Some cooler air is beginning to move in. This area of low pressure, as I mentioned, it's going to try to move in here, but you see how it's kind of breaking apart and staying to the north. But what's happening is we're seeing a piece of energy break off from that main area of low pressure. Cooler air also kind of breaking off and coming down into Northern California. So we've got this area of low pressure right here. This is helping to create a lot of that instability that we will see. And remember I was talking about, especially on Thursday, this is the area where we typically see the most amount of instability. So that is the cooler source of air that's really going to be felt on Saturday. We're still going to see some of the wraparound showers. So the area of low pressure is here, and that's where you would think you see most of the rain. But with the flow around that low, comes right down into Northern California on Saturday, and that's why we expect to see more of those showers here. And so as that shifts down to it actually moves off to the east here, that's when we start to see the chances for Saturday afternoon. But by Sunday, high pressure is going to start to build in as we go into early next week, drying things out, and we also see those warmer temperatures. So that roller coaster ride, there it is. There's the drop as we go into the weekend. There's the increase back in the upper 80s. Could we possibly see 90 for the first time this year toward the middle and latter part of next week? Not out of the question, but it looks like for the most part we should dodge that 90-degree mark still. And I don't think I hear anybody complaining about that. The lake levels are still looking very healthy, still seeing those positive numbers. Nothing major, but still that snow melt coming off of the mountains is really helping to really fill up our reservoirs. Taking a look at the wave heights for this afternoon, they are going to start to recede, especially through the day on Thursday. So there is a hazardous seas warning for this morning, but that will be allowed to expire as we get closer to the noon and afternoon hours. But the winds starting off fairly strong out of the north at about 25 to 30 knots, but those will also begin to subside later this afternoon. All right, so here's your Trinity County neighborhood forecast. We do have those temperatures in the low to even some mid-70s. Now, I've included even some lightning strikes there on Thursday because I think that's really the day that's going to be the most active for Trinity County, with some heavy downpours, hail, lightning strikes, and of course the heavy downpours as well. Now, for the North Coast, you can see it's dry for Wednesday, Thursday, better chances for showers coming in Friday, Saturday, drying out on Sunday. And that's really the case for the inland areas. We may see a slight chance for, say, places like Orleans, Hoopa, Willow Creek to maybe just get on the western fringe of that rain, but to the west of that should remain dry. We take a look at Siskiyou County neighborhood forecast. Slight chance today, better chances I think as we go into Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then maybe a lingering shower on Sunday. But overall, Sunday is when we start to wrap things up really across the board. Even though I've got the chance in there on Sunday, even for Modoc County, do note that most of it's going to be over the next several days here through Saturday. Eastern Mountains neighborhood forecast, 59 in Viola, 60 for Mineral, 68 degrees for Paradise. Really, as I was mentioning, not a lot of activity on Thursday. So I've just got that chance in there on Thursday with better chances coming in for Friday, Saturday, wrapping it up on Sunday. Temperatures are going to be a bit cooler for the valley. We've been in the 80s the last several days. We are beginning the cooling trend. So that's why you see temperatures dropping down into the 70s for most of us. Taking a look at your 7-day forecast for Chico, I've got you with a chance for showers on Friday, better chance on Saturday, especially late in the day Saturday, by the way. And then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, it's beginning to warm back up, and not to mention dry out as well. We take you up to the north. Yeah, I think some of us could touch that 80-degree mark here for today. But otherwise, again, we're on that downward trend with those temperatures, and that's starting today. You'll notice it on Thursday, even more so by Friday, Saturday, and then by Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, those temperatures will start to increase again. Here's a look at your 7-day forecast for Redding. So as I see there at PM on Thursday. Now, there could be that slight chance for some of those thunderstorms that are developing west of the valley to maybe spill into the valley. Now, I don't have PM for Wednesday for today, but do note that if a shower or thunderstorm develops just north of Redding in northern Shasta County, some of that may spill into the north end of the valley around Redding area, city of Shasta Lake, maybe Anderson, but don't count on it. Just one of those things. Keep in the back of your mind that there is that slight possibility, maybe another possibility Thursday, but really overall better chances for any of that showers, I think, for everyone in the valley will be Friday and Saturday. It's warming back up though. Sunny skies by Sunday, temperatures back in the low to mid 80s by Monday, Tuesday of next week. That's your morning update. I'll be back again at noon with the latest forecasts. Have a great morning.
Wind River Resort and Casino, we like to celebrate life's little moments. Oh, and the big ones too, because around here, when you're completely in the moment, that's when the magic happens. Come in and find your moment at Wind River Resort and Casino.